All right, everybody. Well, hello and welcome to Shimmer and Shine. This is our first installment of our IndigoEdge series. I'm Matt Richardson. I'm one of the co-owners of Indigo Ink. I'm joined by Liz Richardson, my wife, and the other
Hello.
co-owner, and Alex Donahoe. He's our lead press operator, and he's also our mad scientist behind the scenes making all this crazy stuff happen. We're excited and really thankful that over 80 people signed up and have taken the time to learn with us today. We're really blown away by the response. So thank you, everybody. We do ask through the duration of the session that you keep your microphones on mute. If you have any questions or concerns, you can use the chat function. Just put it in there. Liz is going to monitor it, and she's going to read the questions at the end for Q&A. And a reminder to everybody that we're recording this session, so it will be available later for your review. In case you don't know us, Indigo Ink, we're a digital printing company. We're in Columbia, Maryland. We're an eco-friendly printer. We have an amazing team of hardworking and creative people who love paper, print, and problem solving. We do a lot of research and development to offer you guys, our clients, new and exciting printing and embellishment techniques, and that's why we're here today. So today, what we're doing is we're going to review how to set up files for metallic ink and foil printing. So hopefully most of you have received our sample packet in the mail. It would be helpful if you have the sample packet open and have all those items out, because we're going to be talking about a lot of them and referencing them throughout the session. And then after the class, I encourage you, if you haven't already done so, to download the files from the resources section of our website. It's under resources and there's a sample files tab. You can download all of these files. And I think it's a great guide that you can use to set up your own files, your own artwork. You'll see how we have layers set up. You'll see how spot colors are set up. So before we dig in, I'm going to turn it over to Alex. He's going to go over some important items that we'd like everybody to be familiar with. So Alex, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Sure.
All right, let me just make sure I've got my settings correct, and they are. Okay, great. Here we go. All right, here at Indigo Ink, we love shiny objects. Foil and metallic highlights catch the eye, take printed pieces from the everyday to the extraordinary, and enhance the art that we produce. We hope this class will inspire you and give you the tools you need to make something truly special that you can be proud to have designed and we can be proud to have produced for you. First, a brief explanation of our foil process and an overview of what metallic ink is and how it works. Traditional foil stamping uses an engraved metal die to press a design into the underlying sheet, leaving a crisp and lightly debossed foil imprint. The foil can be applied anywhere on the sheet before or after printing, and the process works on almost any material, but manufacturing the plate can be costly and time-consuming, making this an economically prohibitive option for small orders. Today, we're going to be talking about setting your files up for sleeking foil, also known as digital flat foil. You may have seen examples of this process on social media. Homemakers have long used desktop printers, sheets of foil, and tabletop laminators to create their own art. We use a similar technology on a much larger scale. Sleeking foil adheres to ink, meaning if we can print it, we can foil it. We can quickly run tests and prototypes, include variable data from sheet to sheet, add borders and full bleed design elements, with many colors to choose from. It's not flawless, and we are limited by compatible papers, but it is the most economical and flexible foil technology on the market today. There is one major limitation with digital foil. It's a multi-pass process. Because foil sticks to ink, we cannot add foil after the fact. Instead, we must print the foil design, add the foil, and then print the rest of the piece. Paper is inherently unstable and changes size and shape during every step of the production process. When printing the same sheet multiple times, it's nearly impossible to guarantee perfect alignment of design elements added between the previous pass and subsequent passes. Metallic ink avoids this by being a single pass process. Because it's printed at the same time as the rest of the image, it's always in perfect alignment with the rest of the print, and it can be used on synthetic materials and textured paper where digital foil would not be suitable. Metallic ink includes actual particles of aluminum metal. The light scatters incoming light, producing a shiny, shimmering effect where foil produces a mirror reflection. In addition, because metallic ink simply requires a little longer in the press, it's considerably less expensive than foil and faster to produce. As we move into file setup, let's make sure everyone's on the same page about some terminology. What exactly is a spot color, and why do they matter? In most cases, the printing process uses 4 colors: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. When you set up a CMYK color build in Illustrator, you'll see these referred to as process colors. By varying the density and ratio of these 4 colors, we can produce many more. However, this is not a perfect system, and there are plenty of colors we cannot produce starting with only 4. In addition, process colors can change on a moment-to-moment basis depending on the press condition, the ambient environment, and a dozen other chemical and physical factors. Spot colors exist to ensure that there's a way to reliably print colors outside the CMYK gamut, and for print shops to consistently print the exact same color no matter where they are in the world. Spot colors are diverse. They can include specialized inks, like white, metallic, or fluorescent shades. They can be used to denote industry standard color palettes for the Pantone matching system or commercial branding, or even exotic special effects like glow-in-the-dark, iridescent, and scratch-off applications. Anything that falls outside the standard printing process but is still manufactured on press is likely to be defined as a spot color within a working file. In a 4-color printing process, we rely on inks layering and mixing together on the page to form new colors. If you want a rich blue in the middle of a flood of red, most programs will send the flattened file to press with a knockout, so the integrity of the blue remains. By enabling overprint, the file will preserve the overprinted element as a unique layer and will allow the underlying color to fill in. This drastically alters the overprinted color, which is typically an undesirable outcome. But when working with spot inks that work in tandem with the rest of the print, like silver or white, we need those layers to remain separated. This allows us to manipulate the ordering of special effects without affecting the rest of the print, moving white or silver ink above or below the rest of the print, disabling them entirely, or re-enabling and printing them by themselves. It's important to note that not every spot color needs overprint. In fact, some utilizations require it to be disabled. If you're ever unsure about how to set up your file so your design prints as you intended, let us know. We're here to help. This layering process can be pretty elaborate. For example, it is entirely possible to foil a sheet, print a CMYK design, laminate, foil again, print again, and finally add clear foil to the printed text. Is this a good idea? Probably not, but it is technically possible, and I'm not here to tell you no. Having a solid understanding of how layering within a file translates to layering during production will expand your design horizons and make for a much happier print shop. So let's take a look at a few combinations and talk about how and why they work. A very common request is to use a single spot ink, for instance white, to make a strong statement on colored paper. Feather Sample 1 uses this approach on Mohawk Urban Gray cover stock. We won't be spending too much time talking about white ink today. While it is an important tool in the execution of the special effects in the docket, designing with white ink could and probably will be a future webinar, so we can cover all of the possibilities in detail. Another option is using foil as the only design element on the page. We can use any color of foil for this process, and it's a great option for special events, art prints, and other statement pieces. You can see this in action on Feather Sample 2. Adding an additional layer of printed design turns the foil into an accent. If nothing overlaps the foil, we can use any combination of foil and ink here. Feather Samples 3 and 4 showcase possible applications with white and black ink. Our silver and gold foils are printable, allowing us to overprint a CMYK design on the metallic surface, achieving a variety of special effects that we'll dive into a bit later. Feather Sample 5 has a sneak peek of this approach. We've also seen some unique projects come through that utilize lamination on top of foil as an intentional design element. This remarkable card used printable gold foil and black ink under soft touch laminate to achieve a shimmering matte finish. Effects can also be layered on top of laminate in many combinations. This amazing art print used black laminate and silver and red foil for a starkly contrasting metallic effect. Finally, one of our favorite minimalist effects uses a single color of ink with spot gloss foil applied, producing a white on white or black on black accent effect. The possibilities are almost limitless, but there are still rules governing how, when, and where these effects can be used. Look a little closer. Design tips and tricks could probably be a class by itself. For today, we'll just briefly shed some light on a few things we've discovered in our time working with these techniques. Metallic ink can be used as a standalone design element to print pure silver, or as an underlying base for a CMYK design, producing metallic colors. When working with CMYK over foil or metallic ink, keep in mind the color will be impacted. Metallic ink and foil are not white, so they will darken and shift over printed colors. The more ink that is added, the less light will be reflected. We recommend sticking to a color build below 200% saturation for the best results. We found that the more contrast between the metallic and unembellished elements of a print, the more the effect stands out. On both foil and metallic ink, avoid thin lines, small fonts, and fine design elements, especially when surrounded by rich colors. Larger design elements are more effective. Foil and overprinted design will rarely line up exactly. In most cases, up to 1 millimeter of shift is expected. We continue to experiment with ways to overcome this limitation, but this is where we are now. We do have a few tricks to mitigate this, which we plan to cover in detail in a future class. We recommend checking out our tips and tricks video if you haven't seen it already. Liz will put a link in the chat. Now, it's time to pull out those samples you have handy. I'm going to turn it over to Matt to walk you through how to set up spot colors within Illustrator using feather samples 3, 5, and 7.
All right, thanks, Alex. All right, everybody, that was a lot of information, but we needed to share that, so we had a nice foundation for what we're going to talk about here. And I'm going to start with feather sample number 3. It's the black ink with the gold foil. Hopefully you can see that. So feather sample 3 is a real simple one, just black ink, one spot color. So what I wanted to do is show you how there's 2 layers in this file. We have a layer for the artwork, which is, hopefully everybody can share my or see my screen. Nod, thumbs up. Yes, all right, I see Jim, thanks.
You're good, Matt.
So we have, thank you. So we have 2 layers in this one. We have a CMYK layer, but really it's just black ink, and I'll turn that off and on so everybody can see it. And we have a foil layer, turn that off and on so everybody can see it. The reason why we do that, it makes it a lot easier to make changes when you're working on the file, or if we get the file from you and we need to make any adjustments. It's really easy when we can turn off all the CMYK and just work on the foil elements. Some designs are more intricate than what we're showing you here. And then the other thing I want to show you on this one is that we have our spot color. It's called HP foil. And it's really important to name these colors exactly the way we have it in our FAQ on our website. In this case, it's capital H, capital P, and a space, and then foil. Foil's capitalized. If you don't spell it that way and capitalize it that way, the press won't recognize the spot color. There's ways we can work around it, but it's super helpful if everybody can keep the same naming convention. And then we use 100% cyan for foil and metallic, just a bright color. You can use another color, but we use cyan, and it makes it a lot easier to see. So this one's a real simple setup. You know, we've created our black ink, and then we have our foil layer. And the only other thing we do before we finish, this is just best practice for foil printing. For most cases, we're going to go to attributes. So we go to window and go to attributes, and you'd select overprint fill while the foil elements are selected. And by the way, I'm in Illustrator. The same method works in InDesign. It's almost exactly the same. Just some of the tools are in different spots, but it's all the same. And once you're happy with the design, what you do, you save it in Illustrator first, and then save yourself a copy in Acrobat. And if you have bleeds, make sure you define the bleeds. In this case, I don't, so I'm just going to save this PDF file. And I want to show you another trick. I'm going to change my screen here. I'm going to go to Acrobat here in a second. Bear with me. And I want to show you this file in Acrobat. One of the tricks that we use, got to move out of the camera here. One of the tricks that we use in Acrobat is, or a tool, it's called Output Preview. And we use this with every job that comes into our shop. And Output Preview is a really good way to look at a file and make sure everything looks right before we send it to press. So with Output Preview, you can see there's a spot plate. So that means I created a spot color correctly. If I uncheck that, all of my foil elements should disappear. And then if I uncheck the CMYK, everything else should disappear except for the foil. So I know everything is correct in this file. And this ensures that we have a nice ready to print PDF for the press. So hopefully that makes sense. That's the first feather sample.
And
if you have any questions, yep.
This is the one that he was going over, since it might not look the same.
Yeah,
on the screen.
right. Thank you. I'm going to go back to Illustrator here. So now we are going to look at feather sample 5, and this is the one that has CMYK printed on top of silver foil. And again, you can get all these sample files from our website under the resources tab. But this is a slightly different process, but very similar to the first one. What we have here is a layer, 2 layers. One layer with our CMYK, just like the other file, and then another layer with our foil. Turn this off and show you. So ultimately, what we want to do is we want to create a file where the CMYK feather is going to print on top of the silver foil. And the way the process works, what we have to do is we have to print the foil part first, like Alex was mentioning, and then we're going to take the press sheet with just foil, and we're going to send it back to our press and imprint the CMYK on top of the foil. And that's what gives this sample that really shiny look with the CMYK on top. You'll notice registration isn't quite perfect, but this is pretty good, and this is kind of what's to be expected with this process. But I want to show you something where, in this case, we put our foil design element on top of the CMYK. And I know it doesn't make sense because it covers it up and you can't see it, but this is how the press needs to see it. And the big key here is that while the foil element is selected, you go to your attributes panel again and you select overprint fill. And as Alex explained earlier, what happens when that PDF is saved, the information behind the foil spot color is saved. So it's preserved. So when we send that to the press, all the information's there. So this one, just like the other one, we're going to save as a PDF. Don't have any bleed, so I'm just going to save it as is. I'm going to show you again in the output preview in Acrobat what we want to look for. Okay, so everybody should be able to see my Acrobat. This is Acrobat Pro, by the way. So if you have Adobe Creative Suite, you have this tool available to you. So you can see I have simulated overprinting selected, so that way I can see that this feather is tinted by that blue layer, the blue spot color. When I turn it off, you just see the top layer. So this helps me to see, oh yeah, we definitely have foil in there. And of course, if I turn off my foil plate, it disappears completely and it's just the CMYK. So once again, I know this file is perfect. I always encourage everybody to look at your PDF files with output preview before you send them to us. It's a really good way to do a quick spot check to make sure everything's right. We're still going to check it and we'll let you know, but this could save some time in a couple emails or a phone call. Not that we don't love talking to you, we do. All right, so we're going to go back to Illustrator. We're going to look at the last sample file that I'm going to go over, and we're going to have Alex do the hard stuff. This last one is feather sample number 7, and this is the one. It's on an eggshell paper. I don't know if you can see it. My office isn't super bright, but this is metallic ink with CMYK printed on top of it. So this is very similar to what we just did for foil, but it does have one key difference. So on my screen here is feather sample 7, and you can see now we have an additional layer. We have CMYK. I'm going to turn all of these off so you can see it. So we have our CMYK layer. Now we have a white layer and a metallic ink layer. The reason why we have white is because we're using an uncoated stock, and the metallic effect won't really show if you don't put white ink under it, because it will soak into the paper. Alex will talk about that more later. But this is really important to have. So if you're going to do a metallic ink order with CMYK printed on top, you need to have a white ink layer. If you are going to print it on a coated paper like silk or gloss, you don't need a white ink layer. You just need the metallic ink layer. So, but in this case, we're printing on uncoated. It's an eggshell. So this is simple. Just like the other one, you create your white ink layer. You name the spot color HP White 1. Kind of important to point out here. And I think I forgot to mention earlier about how to spell something else, but that's okay. If you follow these sample files, it'll work for you. So we set this up as white as a spot color, and we use 100% magenta. Again, it's just a bright color, makes it easier for us to see it. And then we put it right on top of the artwork, and then we make sure while it's selected, once again, we hit Overprint Fill in the Attributes panel. And we're going to do the same thing for metallic. We're going to make sure metallic is on top of white. And we're also going to make sure that's a spot color named HP Metallic. And we're also going to make sure we check the Overprint Fill button. And everything's done. Now we're ready to save this as a PDF. I'm going to show you one more time here. This is a little bit more, one more layer than the last two. No bleed, so I'm just going to save it. And now we're going to look at it in Acrobat. And once again, our favorite tool, the output preview tool. You can see this color's different. It's because it's putting cyan and magenta on top of the CMYK, but we're going to turn those off real quick. So we have our background, looks good. And then on top of that, we have our white ink layer. And on top of that, we have our metallic layer. And when we send this to the press, when Alex sends this to the press, what he will do is, he's already automated this, but what happens is he will make sure the press prints 4 hits of white underneath the eggshell, and then 2 hits of metallic. Then on top of that, it'll be CMYK. And the Feather Sample 7 shows you exactly how it looks when it comes off the press. So that's it for me. Again, if you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat. We will get to them at the end. I'm going to turn this over to Alex.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Bear with me.
Sure.
This is the fun part. Okay. Now it's time for file setup in Photoshop. Before we dive into how to set up the first example, we thought it might be helpful for you to see this base being produced to better understand the process.
Let us walk you through how we produce this.
Every foil print starts with a blank sheet of paper. For Titan, we're using 130-pound Explorer silk cover stock. It's very smooth, extremely stable, and performs incredibly well for all types of foils. To start this process, we're laying down anywhere between 4 and 10 layers of ink, depending on the material we're working with, the color of foil, and the complexity of the design. For Titan, we're using 6 layers of black ink. The press sheet then comes to our matrix slaking foiler, which we've loaded with printable gold foil. Using a combination of a high heat and pressure, a special adhesive is activated that sticks to the ink, but not to the rest of the sheet. Waving us a beautifully foiled press sheet. The foiled press sheet is then loaded back into our Indigo for the overprint. By now the paper has gone through 2 full heating cycles and has changed size and shape, so we always use the first 2 sheets to make sure that everything's lined up and nothing's changed position. Once it's output, the rest of the CMYK design is overprinted on the foil, and we are 99% of the way there. For a final touch, we bring the printed piece to our UV coater, forming a shiny, scratch-resistant layer that brings out the best of the color and protects the finish. Once the sheet is cooled, everything is cut to size, leaving us a perfect and extremely shiny piece of art. There are a few things I want to bring to your attention with Titan. First, we discussed the variability inherent to the foil process. If you look closely at the foil elements of the word Titan on this print, many of you will likely see examples of minor registration errors between the foil and the print. Some samples will be better than others. If you have a perfect example, take a close look at feather sample 5 to see similar production irregularities. No 2 sheets will be exactly the same, and certain projects will be less forgiving than others. This is also the first example you'll see of gloss UV coating. This finishing process has been added to several pieces within the set for aesthetic and practical reasons. Gloss coating often enhances the color of a printed piece while simultaneously protecting it from damage. Ink printed on foil can be less durable than the same ink printed on paper, so we've chosen to add the overcoat to Titan to help prevent wear. In many ways, setting up spot channels in Photoshop is easier than in Illustrator. The layering doesn't matter, the overprint setting is automatic, and the process of defining a spot channel is as easy as pressing a button. Getting to that point can be a little more challenging, though. Put simply, creating a spot channel within Photoshop involves nothing more complex than creating a selection. The selection can be created using any tool or combination of tools. Once the selection is made, it can be directly converted to a spot channel, visible in the Channels tab. The same naming conventions apply here as in Illustrator. The foil selections in Titan were made in Photoshop using the magic wand. With clever use of the tool settings, you can easily grab chunks of similarly colored image. We used this approach with Titan. There are countless ways to create selections within Photoshop. In the interest of time, we won't be detailing any specific tools here. Again, this is probably going to be a future webinar, so keep watching your email. Once your selection is made, navigate to the Channels tab where you'll find your image broken down into its respective color layers, usually either RGB or CMYK. Hold Control and click the plus button to immediately convert your selection to a spot color. In the new window, define the name, a color to represent the spot ink, and the opacity. Again, this has no effect on the finished print. It is only for file preview purposes. Once your spot channel has been created, you can duplicate it, helpful for metallic inks, rename and modify it as necessary, and export your file to a PDF, preserving the spot color as a unique layer. Finally, as Matt suggested, double-check the layers in your PDF to make sure everything saves correctly. Next, let's see a proper showcase of metallic ink. For those of you with a sample pack in your hands, you'll find 2 copies of Rains, one on 100-pound silk cover, the other on 110-pound felt cover. The artwork is identical, but the resulting effect is wildly different. Selecting the right substrate to use with metallic ink is just as important a design consideration as where the metallic ink is being applied. Metallic ink accents the texture of the paper it's used on. Here, I've specifically selected a heavily textured stock to highlight this. When used on a silk or gloss-coated material, you can expect a flashier, more uniformly metallic effect. One important distinction to be made here is the addition of a layer of white ink to the uncoated paper. If any of you have had to repair drywall at your house or been unfortunate enough to do bodywork on your car, you can guess what's happening here. Metallic ink applied to an uncoated stock will sink into the grain structure of the paper, resulting in a lackluster effect. White ink acts as a filler compound that primes the paper, smoothing out imperfections and giving us a slick, glossy surface for the metallic ink to shine. This white ink layer is an exact duplicate of the metallic spot channel. It is not being used anywhere else. Certain colors are more effective with metallic ink than others. We tried several metallic ink designs before settling on Rains, specifically because the pinks and blues of this piece were real standouts in the process. We offer a metallic ink swatch book with a variety of reference color builds for this exact reason. Many foil quotes we handle ask for foil designs to be placed in the middle of a sheet, surrounded by ink on all sides. Attempting these projects with a knockout for the foil is a setup for failure. We've already discussed the variability of digital foil, and you can imagine how obvious alignment problems would be without including safety margins, which are not always possible to add. So what do we do when we have a design that uses foil as an integral part of the sheet print, surrounded on all sides by ink that also includes tiny details? The simple answer is we cheat. By adding a layer of printable lamination between the foil and the print, we can add any color of foil anywhere on the sheet. And because the laminate is engineered for this very application, it readily picks up tiny details that would be inconsistent or impossible on other substrates. Using printable laminate opens the door to using a much wider range of foils, including matte metallic and rainbow holographic materials, which are not directly printable and would otherwise require blank margins to be added to a print. There are a few design elements of Mars that I want to call out. In the original artwork, the foil elements of this piece were included as a CMYK design. Directly converting this design to foil without any accommodations would have made this piece almost unprintable. You can see design elements here that would have been incredibly punishing to align. Rather than put myself through that, we simply converted these underprinted areas to solid blocks of color, with the overlying foil hiding everything except the original pattern. That's not to say this piece is devoid of production errors. Close inspection of the foil might reveal small registration issues, but as a general rule, adding laminate helps stabilize the sheet, reducing the risk of major problems. And now the real crowd pleaser. Let's talk about holographic materials. We've had rainbow holographic foil for a long time, and it's a great way to bring a fun explosion of color to a printed piece. On Jupiter, you're seeing something a little different. This piece is printed on a sheet of metallized board, essentially a sheet of paper with a mirrored silver surface, but with an added layer of holographic etching, turning the entire sheet into a special effect. Holographic stock lets us pull off a trick that few other print techniques can equal, adding depth and motion to a flat sheet of paper. Jupiter uses a holographic pattern called Lava, manufactured by Hazen Paper Company out of Massachusetts. Selecting the right holographic pattern in your project is critical to achieving the desired effect, and there are many patterns. For this reason, holographic prints are typically a deeply collaborative experience with input from every level of the design and production team, helping one another brainstorm and turn your idea into reality. White ink can be used in novel ways over holographic stock. By including gradients and varied opacity, you can selectively filter the holographic pattern, allowing it to fade in and out of the print, hiding it from view entirely, or even leaving knockouts in the printed design to expose the sheet below. You can see this gradient effect on the cloud layer of this piece, while the balloons have received 4 layers of full-strength white ink, making them really pop off the page. CMYK designs will pick up the holographic shimmer, but will also experience color shifting, just like printable foil. Like other metallized boards, holographic stock is single-sided, although both sides of the sheet are printable. Finally, the surface finish is very soft. More so than any other technique or material we've talked about, we very strongly suggest including a protective layer of UV coating, as we've done here. The gloss overcoat enhances the holographic effect and protects your print from damage. We recognize that Adobe is not the only design option out there. While it is an industry standard, there are a host of other beloved programs that we simply don't have time or expertise to speak to. Some of these programs may support spot colors, but we cannot guarantee compatibility, and some, like Procreate, do not support spot colors at all. If you use one of these programs in your work and determine that you cannot add spot channels that will survive export to a PDF format, don't be disappointed. The preferred workaround is simply to provide us with two files, one containing your artwork and the other containing the special effects layer in pure black. While this isn't optimal, it will work. As we come to the end of today's class, I want to take a moment here to point out that I am not a Photoshop expert, and I'm not a designer. Every sample print you're holding in your hands was accomplished through stubborn tenacity and bludgeoning my way through the few tools I know and understand. That's kind of the point. Special effects don't have to be complicated, and they don't need special expertise. We aim to make these techniques accessible to everyone, no matter their skill or comfort level. Furthermore, nothing you've seen here today is intended to be the final word in print embellishment. We haven't even begun to touch on how to combine these effects to create new ones, nor have we scratched the surface of creative design applications. We have many more sessions planned for the future. I would encourage you all to join us as we dive into those other topics. You can look forward to more weird and wonderful materials, guest appearances from some of our amazing clients, deep dives into the art and science of print technology, exotic and cutting-edge techniques, and much more. If you have any ideas or special requests for what these classes should talk about in the future, please reach out and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you all for your patience and attention today. Now we'll move into the Q&A portion of today's webinar.
Thank you, Alex. That was wonderful. That was awesome. And thank you, Matt. And
Sure.
we do have a couple questions. Do we have matte UV coating or only gloss?
Yeah, we have a matte aqueous coating. We noticed that the matte coating on some of the finishes kind of take away from the shininess of the foil or the metallic ink. Alex, have you seen any samples where we've done a matte finish, satin aqueous?
I've played with both, and they both do work, but they're very different effects. The satin aqueous coating, it's the same exact process as the gloss, but where the gloss is going to pull out more of the color of the piece, the satin will dull that down a little bit. It's a good alternative if you're looking for that kind of satin, shimmery, matte metallic finish, but it's a radically different effect than you would get with the gloss, for sure.
Yeah. It's a good question.
Yeah. Annie Green asked, can you share the overprint selection again? Annie, I know Matt kind of recircled back a few times, so is there still a question on that you want to ask? You're good.
Okay.
All right.
In the video,
anybody else have any question? For sample 6, which is the reins, I assume you can just duplicate the spot channel you make for metallic and rename it as white, or does it need to have some special treatment done for white?
That's exactly how it works. You literally duplicate the channel, rename it to HP White 1 or HP Metallic, depending on which one you need, and save it. Easy as that.
Can the holographic board be scored and folded? Have we tested that?
Yes, it can actually.
Yeah.
We had a project. Yeah, we had a project not too long ago that did exactly that, and it worked beautifully.
In fact, I believe a lot of the holographic board and the metallized boards are used for packaging, so they can score, cut, fold, glue.
Yep, both of those materials were originally engineered for the luxury packaging industry. They just happen to have some really fun applications outside of that.
Well, that's all the questions I have in the chat right now. Feel free to speak up if anyone wants to ask a question in person or not through chat.
Hey,
oh, a few more came in.
Hey, Jim.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jim.
Question. You were just talking holographic boards.
Yeah.
Limitation on size. What's the size of the style?
Max size on that board that our press is able to run is 13 by 19. They do make it in larger sizes, but our press is limited to 13 by 19, so that's the max size we can run on any substrate.
Yeah, I think the image area is about 12.4 by 18.2. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah. There's a little bit of unprintable area around the outside, but it's not much.
Yeah.
So these are for all of the foils, metallic ink. That size is where our limitations.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Good question.
And I think this question has to do with the holographic board as well. In the same vein, are you able to do the scoring before mailing out?
Sure. Yeah. Not a problem.
Yep. Very common request. Do it all the time.
So you were using Adobe Acrobat as a printer to preview the client submitted files, ? Would I just open my saved PDF in Acrobat to see how you would view it as a printer?
So what I did, when I open it in Acrobat, one of the tools available is called Output Preview. I wasn't looking at it as if I was printing to a PDF. I was opening the PDF in Acrobat Pro using the Output Preview tool to look at the file. So if you have Acrobat Pro, you should be able to do it. Again, most folks who have Adobe Creative Cloud should have, depending on your licensing, Acrobat Pro as an option.
Do you know whether that would work if you do print as a PDF?
Well, you mean if you just hit File, Print to a PDF? I don't think there's an option in there to do an output preview. I think it's just in the Acrobat Pro.
Okay. Any limitation on print runs for doing foil? Can I just do one? And by the same extent, can I make 2,000 copies? Good question.
Mm-hmm.
We can do print runs of one. It's very economical to do that. There's a point where the sheet count starts making more economic sense to actually have a plate manufactured and do proper foil stamping. We've done larger sleeking foil runs, but the run time on those is significantly longer in some cases. So it's really on a case-by-case basis. I would defer to Matt for the specifics.
Yeah, well, in this case, we just try to get you the best price. So I would say probably at maybe 300 sheets, it starts to make sense, depending on the size of the foil area, to switch to a traditional foil run. And we do that all the time. We work with some really good foil stampers out there, so they work with us hand in hand, and it's really seamless to our clients.
But we can also just do one.
Yeah, we can do 1, 5, 10. We can do variable foil, and we've done that. Wedding, like a table card that's scored and folded. We've done variable names in foil, variable numbers. So literally every sheet of the foil is different.
What foil colors are available?
Christina, give me 1 second here. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick screen share and just showcase that. Hopefully you can see that. Is that visible?
No.
I don't see it now.
No, it is not. Okay, hang on. Oh, it would probably help if I actually picked that. Okay, so that is the full library of available colors right there.
So far.
That's what we have in-house. There are other colors we have not tested that exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are hundreds of available colors. Just for lack of available shelf space, we had to call it somewhere.
We do have a black foil now, and we've used that with great effect. It's a really neat contrast, especially on our black soft touch. The black soft touch laminate is very matte finish, and the black foil is very glossy, so the contrast is really fantastic. And we can also do that on black paper. It looks really nice.
Is there a preferred PDF export present in Illustrator, like high quality print or Illustrator default?
Highest quality available is usually the safest bet. I believe there is an option buried in there somewhere for press quality, and that is the highest quality that you can export. It does result in a larger file size, but it gives our press the most to work with.
Yep.
Here's another question. As a wedding invitation designer, I'd love to be able to do small metallic ink runs on 5x7 cards for styled, let's see it. That word I cannot see because there's something in the way. What is the minimum average I can expect to budget for if I wanted to do 10 sample prints?
That's a tough one to answer, but it's not going to be much. If you would email us at order@indigoinkprint.com, one of our project managers can do a quick price quote for you. If you just want samples, we'll go easy on the price and make sure that you get what you need very, very cheaply.
Can metallic ink be used on other printed products, like stickers?
Yeah, totally.
Yep,
Yeah,
metallic
anything we
ink
can.
works on like 99% of the materials in the shop. Have no problem with it.
Even small format packaging.
Yep. Somebody asks if we have any images of the black foil. I don't know if we have any readily available, but we can send it to you because that's a really nice looking one, unless you have something there, Alex.
Well, the
I
one
do, if I
that
can
Alex
extract
put
it.
up, it was on the lower left. It's just that the photo quality wasn't super.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
tiny.
if I can, here we go. I should be able to actually extract this and just toss it in chat.
Yeah.
Do this. Yep, it's that, and then.
Here's another question about print to
Mhm.
PDF. Is there a difference between printing to PDF and saving to PDF? I recently did a project where elements in a pattern were turned white on the print to PDF, but didn't show up on my end using the save to PDF method.
Yeah, that Alex might be able to talk more to this, but I've seen that things like that happen before, and I believe what's going on there, whatever parameters are set for printing to PDF could be different than saving to PDF. We've run into some tricky files where we've had to do some troubleshooting. Maybe that was one of them. We'd probably
The
have to see
long
the
and short of
file.
it, yeah, the long and short of it is PDF files are weapons grade crazy sauce, and they can do some really weird stuff. So technically, printing to PDF, saving to PDF should give you exactly the results that you would expect, and should both be the same. That doesn't mean it actually works out that way.
Alex, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure thing.
In regard to the rip you were saying, as far as creating like out of Illustrator or out of InDesign, creating your PDF press quality makes the most sense. Do you guys have a proprietary rip that you can provide? I know some printers will send out proprietary rips. Do you do that, or is it press quality good enough?
We don't really have anything proprietary or preferred. We get files in all sorts of formats. Any kind of PDF is always going to work better than whatever else you could send, just because it's an industry standard. Color management is probably going to be a class somewhere down the road, but that's not so much a rabbit hole as it is a black hole. So I've really got to make sure that when we get to that point, we're doing it right.
Thank you.
And Jim, I do think, and this could be ancient history. There could be a profile on our website somewhere hidden that is an old profile for saving PDFs. I we need to update that because we have a much newer press. You just basically gave me a to-do list item today. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, that's a really good call out. Thanks, Jim.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, if anybody else has a question, they don't think of it now, you can always ask us. You can email us, and we'll get back to you. Um, any, Alex, Liz, do you have anything else?
No, I think that was
I
it.
think I covered everything I
Nothing
wanted
else
to.
in the chat.
All right. Well, we did this in under an hour, so good job, team. And all of our friends that joined us, we really appreciate everybody here for taking the time. We're going to share a link of the recording for today's session. And also, just one more reminder that you can download the sample files from the resources section of our website. And if you have any feedback about this presentation, this is our first one. So if you have any feedback about this presentation, we'd love to hear it. If you have any ideas for classes in the future, also would love to hear that. Love to know what you guys are thinking. And I do see a couple more questions coming in here, so I'm just going to look at it real quick before we sign off.
And I'll also call out, hold on to your samples. We had to leave quite a bit on the cutting room floor for this presentation, so there will be a follow-up and we will be looking at these again.
Oh, you guys are so nice. Thank you for all these nice comments. Thank you so much. And I really think that does it for us. Thank you all for joining. We hope to see you all again soon. Thank you.